everyone, welcome to episode 151. My name is Rachel. I can be found pretty much everywhere as well for pearls. I thought that we would actually start today just sort of hanging out and just for a couple of minutes before the actual stream starts, just so that I can make sure everything was working. And I am sitting here spinning on my Frisian. And so this is that yarn. So I thought that I would sit here and spin while we're sort of waiting for everybody to get into the chat. So hi Kelly, hi Karma, hi Sarah, hi Lane. It's so good to see you guys. What are you up to this weekend? For us up here, it is hi Janelle and Jean. For us up here, it is a long weekend. So we are having sort of a rainy, quiet, staying at home. We're gonna run out and do an errand later today, and I have managed to fill a bobbin of this Frisian, so I have enough now that I can ply off another skein. So that'll be a second skein, probably another one that's roughly 200 yards, and that'll give me about 400 yards towards my total spin. I need about 1,100 yards of yarn. We'll talk about it a little bit later in the show. So I've been sitting and spinning and editing video and editing radio show, and we had the queries and explorations yesterday morning. It was so much fun. Everybody brought amazing questions. We had some great conversation. That's one of the support tiers on Patreon, so if you're interested, you can check that out. There's limited space available, but what a great group of people to start off with. It was really awesome. Yeah, yard work and planting. Oh, that's great, Lane. I hope work's been going okay. We missed you on Thursday at Spin Group. Hi Mary, hi Ingrid, hi Linnea. Every time I see your name, Linnea, you make me smile because there's a teenage girl across the street that does a lot of babysitting for us. Obviously not right now because of all of the sheltering in place. But she is just the nicest girl. She's turning 15 this year and she's going into grade 10. And her name is Linnea, and she's just like the nicest person. So I always imagine you to be a super nice person. I'm sure I'm right, but I just love that name. And actually, when we were on our trip this summer, when we went to the Yukon, one of the park operators, her name was Linnea, and she was the most outdoorsy, tough chick I'd kind of ever met, and she was just absolutely lovely, and she took a real shine to the kids and gave them a whole bunch of stickers, and she'd come back and she gave us a bunch of firewood, and she was just super, super lovely, and her name was Linnea. And those are the only 3 Linneas I've ever met in my entire life. So we'll just wait one more minute and then we'll get going. Hi Pia, hi Maggie, hi Bridget, hi Joanna, good to see you all. So I'm just spinning away on my Frisian, and for those who are just joining, I've got this bobbin almost finished, and then I'll be able to ply off another skein. So I'm super excited because I'll have about 400 yards. So I'll be almost halfway there with the spin because I need about 1,100 yards. All right, let's start the live stream. I've got bits of fluff all over me. Morning, Glenda. It's raining here too. It rained all night actually, and we've been keeping the the windows in our bedroom open. We're finally at kind of that time of year where we can leave the windows open, and I just listened to the rain all night. It was just lovely. Hi Kelly, started prepping your next sweater spin, so been all about the carding. That's awesome. I'm actually going to pull out the carder hopefully today or tomorrow. I need to card up more of this fleece, so I'll be thinking about you while I do that. It's really good to see everybody. So in today's show, it is Sunday, May 17th. Welcome everybody. We have sort of a packed show, but in a really good way. We've got some community participation, some 51 yarns stuff that I wanted to share with you that people have been sharing. And then we'll talk about my Make 9 progress, because as you can see, I have finished another one of my Make 9 sweaters. And we'll talk about a couple of spins in progress that I've been working on. So I hope that all sounds really good. And let's get into the show. Martina. Hi Alberto. It's so good to see everybody. I'm hearing an echo. Hopefully that doesn't continue. You might have to refresh. Sometimes there's an echo and you need to refresh. Or sometimes you've got multiple speakers on. So if everybody else is okay with the sound, hopefully we're okay. Okay. Thanks, you guys. All right, so the yarn substitution content has gone live. If you look at the Woolen Spinning Index, which is linked on the landing page of patreon.com/wellforpearls, you can access all of that under the headings How I Spin for those who are part of those tiers. So there's multiple video now that have been released for May, the intro video, and then there's the part 1. And we've been meeting. We had our first meeting yesterday. It was so much fun, of our queries and explorations tier, which was a sort of an opportunity for us to talk about our garment spinning and questions that we might have. We had a really great conversation around color management, and we talked a lot about some of the spin cycle yarns and some of the color management and creating those really slow transitions between our yarns versus faster transitions where we want the color to move a little bit more quickly. It was really, really lovely to sit and chat and to be part of a Zoom call. Like I was saying to them, one of the things about this, I love doing the podcast. Like I look forward to this every week, and I find it very life-giving. It's very energy-giving for me. I know you guys get a lot out of it. I'm going to get a little bit emotional, and it's something that I think about it all week, and I look forward to it. There's something very different about getting on the Zoom calls and being in a meeting where I'm not the only one behind the camera, and where I can see you guys and put some personalities and some faces to the names. Because it's one thing to get to know somebody on a digital platform like a Slack channel, or the old school MSN messenger type stuff, or on Instagram and messaging back and forth and whatnot. But it's a totally different experience to actually see somebody who's in Vermont, on their camera, and their personality, and somebody that I've interacted with many times through Patreon and Ravelry and Instagram. It's just awesome. So thank you to those who were there yesterday, and thank you to everybody who participated. And there is still space available in that tier if you want to check it out. It's linked in the show notes at patreon.com/wellforpearls. And I will put the link to the show notes in the live chat now so that you guys can see it, for those who want to access it, who are watching this later, the live chat replay later. I had some questions this past week, sort of a little bit out of the blue, but it was really pleasant, about the book How I Spin, a sock study. This was all of the essays that I wrote for the How I Spin content over the last couple of years, and this is available as a book. There is the free ebook download that's offered as a special offer on some of the Patreon tiers right now. but you can get it as a soft cover for those who prefer a physical book. So the links are in the show notes to order that through Blurb. You just have to wait for them to actually print it. I got mine within a few weeks. It was really, really fast. So if that is helpful, please have a look at that. And those are all of the essays that I wrote for when we were doing all of that sock study. So we cover Hauser yarns and my reflections, 4-ply, opposing 3-ply, blends, woolen versus worsted, cabled yarns. There's tons and tons of photos, all of the photos that I took for all of that different content, all the yarns that I spun. I'm very proud of this book. I have thought about doing an order and being able to sort of sell them myself, but I just haven't kind of quite gotten there yet. And with the kids being at home and Mike being at home and everything's kind of being delayed. So community participation. So we have our book club going on in the Slack channel. We've been meeting every other Friday. We did actually meet this past Friday. We're doing Pride and Prejudice right now. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to Becca, Bethy40 in the Slack channel under the hashtag books channel on the Slack channel, and she will help you and she'll give you links and she'll do all the things for you so that you can hook up your participating with us. It's a lovely group that has evolved, and we had a lovely Zoom chat on Friday. I was only able to attend for an hour because Mike was working from home and both of the kids were in front of screens. Nora was having a play date with one of her little friends, and their imaginary play, apparently according to the other mom, was absolutely hilarious. They're really good little buddies, her and this other friend. And so and then I was able to attend book club, but I really was only able to attend for an hour. So I'm really looking forward in the future. Hint, hint, Becca. I don't know if she's in the chat yet today. I don't see her just yet. She'll probably pop in a little bit. I'm hoping that she's going to continue book club indefinitely, that, you know, as we sort of finish up some of these Jane Austen novels that we wanted to do, that we'll move on to some other stuff too. Oh, that's wonderful, Zan. I'm glad that your copy of Unbraided came. Yay, that's awesome. Oh, thank you for the compliment on my sweater. We'll talk about this later in the show. The video for the sock content, it's under the How I Spin heading in. It's the How I Spin vlogs in the index. So check that out, Janelle. And the index is linked. I can link it for you right now if you want. I know people get confused about where the index is and how to access it and whatnot, but the link for everybody, it's a public link, is actually on the landing page of Patreon. And then the links to the Patreon posts are sort of based on whether or not you have access or not to the to that specific Patreon post. So you can sort of see the content that we've created thus far. And then you can also see stuff that's up and coming because it hasn't been linked yet. And you can see there are links there that are public links, like our Yukon Adventures vlog is public, and there's the playlist for the podcast are public. So it's a great resource for those who are looking for links, and it's all in one spot. And because of how Google Docs works, on the right hand side, so your right hand side of the document, when you're looking at the screen, there's headings. So if you're looking for the wool stream specifically, you can click on the wool stream. If you're looking for How I Spin specifically, click on How I Spin, and then you can go to those posts. So for our giveaway this month, we're doing the same thing that we did in April. Me and James have been carting up all of this Frisian from my stash, and it's a down breed. It's just been fantastic to spin. I've been really enjoying it. And in April, Florence won a bat that was made by James and I. And then for May, we'll send out a second one. So I'm hoping to get to the mailbox this week and mail out a few things. But this is it spun up. And I had one of the bats right here. Oh, it's here. And this is what the bats look like. I'm not sure how much they weigh. I didn't bother to weigh it. I will for shipping. there are some second cuts and some little neps and stuff, and I've just been removing them as I've been spinning them. And because of how the down breeds are, it's just super easy to remove them. So really lovely to spin. So if you could pop into the Ravelry thread for the April and May episode thread in the Ravelry group and tell us what you love most about the down breeds, then maybe you'll win. I'm just looking at chat really quickly to make sure that I'm not missing anything. I find the chat moves quite quickly sometimes, and then I miss stuff. So oh, hi Kelly, good to see you. Oh, Dana, good to see you. Participating in the book club. I'm a huge Jane Austen fanatic. PBS's version of Pride and Prejudice is free on Amazon right now. Oh, good to know, Sarah. Thank you. Good cheesy older TV for knitting. Oh, I just love all of the versions of Pride and Prejudice. Stardew Valley spinning wheels, like so cringy. That's awesome. Okay, so we're doing our Made with Love along in the Ravelry group right now. This is open to everybody. This is to lift up people like Katrina and Kelly G in our community. She's in the chat today, and I've been working on my Anchors cardigan on Katrina's Be Fabulicious commercial yarn base. It's a 100% BFL. And then I also been working on this, which is all of her fiber and yarn as well. It's her Tough and Tender Targhee and my Fractured Dawn that I spun back in, I guess it was like February and March now, I guess. So we'll be talking about this project later in the show. But Megan, actually, I wanted to share with you what Megan had made. Let me see if I can find it here in all of the stuff. Megan is swatching. This is Likey Meg post 185. Again, this is all linked in the show notes. She's swatching for her Kata hat by Kelly G in her BFL silk, and this is the Lava Love colorway that she spun. It's absolutely beautiful, really, really beautiful, and she's excited to knit this. So really, really, really well done. Beautiful, beautiful. I just love that colorway. I think there's a couple of people that are like, it's like their favorite colorway. I can't think of who they are right now. I feel like one of them is Kelly, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. Oh, hi, Rebecca. Good to see you. Hi, Eve. Good to see you. I feel like I've seen you a lot lately, Eve, in a really great way. I saw her on Thursday and then again yesterday and then again today. It's just awesome. So that is Megan's Made with Love Along, her project that she's working on. And please don't forget to post your finished objects in the FO thread in the Ravelry group. So let's talk about 51 yarns. This is group A. 51 yarns we're studying based on J.C. Boggs Faulkner's book, 51 Yarns to Spin Before You Cast Off. This is a brilliant book because it's like a study, and we are treating it as a study, and we're literally working through it from the front to the back. And this is a 2-year study that we've been participating in the woolen spinning community, and it's really brought us together as a community. I feel like there's sort of this, since we started this in January of 2019, because we're in our second year for Group A, and then Group B is in their first year. I feel like over the last year and a half, it's really brought us together because there's like this common project that we're all working on, or that many of us are working on, and those who aren't working on it are still kind of participating from the sidelines. And it's been really fun, and it's been a really great community binder for us. So if you don't own this book, it's a fantastic book. I would highly recommend it. You can get it off of the Ply magazine website. So this is Maria's swatch of her... No, sorry, this is Rebecca's swatch of her core spun. This is our Group A. They've been working on a whole bunch of different yarns recently. This month they're working on spinning tip to butt and butt to tip on lock spinning. And next month we're rewinding our singles and plying from the first one end. There's just so many things. Every month there's new stuff that we're doing. And some people do big samples and some people do smaller samples. It just kind of depends on what people can take on for the month. So this is Rebecca's quick reflection. The blue has a worsted weight wool core, and the pink has a kid silk haze core and was intentionally thick and thin. You can see a big difference in how they wove up. So the pink is really pretty. I love how slubby it is. And then that bluey tealy one is sort of a little bit more even. The Kid Silk Haze makes the yarn a little bit finer. But I love that she wove with them to show us, to sort of be able to reflect upon how they wove up. Oh, that's super fun, Zan. So she hasn't spun it all in ages, but she's been doing double weave on the rigid heddle and paper crafting. That's really cool. Huh. Oh, Dorothy, I was wondering DDMM. I was wondering if it was Dorothy, but I didn't want to say and then be wrong. That's awesome. So that is Rebecca's, she's in group A, and then group B, this is Maria's double coated study. So group B is currently working on, where are they right now? They are currently working on their true woolen and true worsted for May. And then the last 2 months they were working on their double coated wool. So they were spinning the tog, the thell, and then they were spinning them together. So Maria says, she's trying to make her comeback because I think she got a little bit derailed. She's been spinning some other stuff and not so much 51 yarns. Everybody has experienced that throughout the study, Maria. That's sort of part of the nice thing about just doing these small samples is you can go off and spin some other stuff and then come back and do your 51 yarn samples when your wheel is free, or your spindles, or whatever it is that you're spinning on. So this dual coat experiment she did a year ago on some, I don't know how to say the sheep wool. It's a Finnish, it's a breed that's from the islands between Finland and Sweden. So Aland, A-L-A-N-D, sheep's wool. They often have double coats, but not always. The inner wool in Iceland, they call it the thell, is soft and short, and the outer in Iceland, the tog, is very long and rough. She separated the coats by just pulling out most of the longer fibers, and she spun them separately into two-ply yarns. The feel of the yarns is very different. The Lopi style yarn in Iceland, they spin both coats together into the singles, and then both of them together loosely in the same direction as the singles were spun. So in group A, in the group A spinner study, there is a lot of info on Icelandic sheep breeds, on the Icelandic sheep breed chain, and she linked it actually, and so I left the link active in the show notes for everybody if you're interested in that. A good article in the Ply magazine as well, and she's trying to, and she's wasn't able to link the Ply magazine stuff, but it is there if you're interested. Beautiful yarns, Maria. So I think which one was it that was the outer? I think the outer was the one that was the fuzzier looking one. So it's not, yeah, this one is the longer fibers. You can see how some of them popped out, and it was a little bit coarser. Some of her reflections in the Ravelry thread. So really, really beautiful spinning, Maria. Really gorgeous. Yeah. Oh, hi Rochelle, good to see you. And oh, there's Meg, she's here. And oh, she's only gonna be here for 15 minutes because they're gonna be going out off in the motorhome. That's wonderful, Megan. I'm so glad you guys are able to do that. That's just fantastic. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. I really appreciate it when you guys post your photos and whatnot in the Ravelry group, and it just makes such a huge difference for all of us to see what everybody's working on, and all of your inspiration and all the stuff that you guys are working on. So I have been spending most of this year working on my Make 9, and this was a sort of make-along participation along in the School of Sweet Georgia, and there's a whole bunch of posts and a mini course and whatnot that is available through the School of Sweet Georgia if you are sort of interested in doing your own Make 9. I have 2 Make 9s going because my first Make 9 included some sewn garments, and with the kids being home and basically the kids being home from March all the way through until September, I'm probably not going to get any sewing done. So I made a second Make 9 grid while Rebecca was visiting, actually, back in over spring break. And I've been slowly working my way through it. So I've actually finished 2 of the sweaters thus far. So I finished my Simple Something, and I have finished my Simple Something, and I finished my Felix cardigan. And I'll see if I can just pull up my Make 9 really quickly to show you guys, but I don't know if yes, there it is. So this is my Make 9 grid for those who haven't seen it, and it's actually in the show notes as well. So the Anchors cardigan is this one right here, and this one right here in the corner is by Petite Knits, and that's the one that I'm doing out of my Be Fabulicious yarn. And then in the middle at the top of this grid is the Felix cardigan, and that's the one that's on my dress form behind me that I did for the yarn substitution content that went live this month for May. And so I reflect on that yarn and putting it into that pattern in that content for the How I Spin content. And then in the middle there, we're going to talk about that sweater later in the show. And my Simple Something is this one right here that was the fade of all of the falling leaves colorways from Sweet Georgia and the Gotland, the Targhee, and the Merino Alpaca Silk that was part of the substituting yarns that you've already spun into knitting patterns that will go live in June as part of the How I Spin content. So I've actually been doing quite well. I did substitute out the Trailhead cardigan. That's this one here. This is a Veronique Avery pattern. I substituted that one out for the Shore cardigan. So they both have a very similar shape, but I substituted it out because I wanted something that was a little bit plainer, so just plain stockinette. I didn't want all of the cables, after all, going up the back of the sweater, because the problem with the cabling going up the back of the sweater, unfortunately it's not photographed very well in the book. The photos on the Ravelry project page, on the Ravelry pattern page, is actually a little bit better. Oh, look what I just found. There's a $20 bill in this book. Huh, that's kind of fun. I wonder why I put that in there. Huh. I wonder how long it's been in there for. That's pretty funny. This is it in black and white. So that's the Shore cardigan. And it's shaped with that asymmetrical sort of high-low hem. So it's lower at the back, higher at the front. So the reason why I subbed it out was because the back of the Trailhead cardigan is all cabled. And it's a seamed cardigan. It's a Brooklyn tweed pattern. And the problem is when I was swatching up this Frisian stuff, because it's so dark, and because I spun it semi-woolen, because I'm doing a short backward, but I'm not smoothing the fibers, and so you can see it's got this really lovely woolen quality to it. The cables just don't stand up. They're not sort of noticeable enough, and because of the darkness of the yarn and the fiber, and I think I put I do have my knit swatch. It's a waste. You can't see the cabling. If it was a lighter color, it would be worthwhile. But you can see how dark the swatch is, right? Like that is dark brown. And I just thought, if I could find a similar shape, it would maybe work a little bit better. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've been spinning it up, and I was saying at the beginning of the show, when I was just sort of spinning and making sure everything was working for the live stream, because we have had technical issues. So I think from now on, I'll try and start 5 minutes early, and we'll just have like a 5-minute sort of slow start to the show, and then actually start at 8:15. But the live stream will already sort of have been running for a couple of minutes. I'm about 400 yards in, so I'm going to be able to ply this bit that's on my wheel behind me here, and then I'll be able to, start knitting the sweater. So that's sort of the next big thing that I'm working on is that sweater as part of my Make 9. Yeah. Oh, so Eve is wondering why you would ply it in the same direction, and wouldn't it be easier to hold two yarns together as singles so they won't nestle together? Are you talking, Eve, about the the Lopi style yarns, because the Lopi style yarns look like singles, but they're not. So they're really, really, really super, super, super low twist singles. And then they spin those two singles and then they ply them together in the same direction to create a singles looking yarn. So it's sort of part of the Lopi, the way that those yarns are made and the uniqueness of that structure. Yeah. So that's the first project. And then the second thing that I have finished off my Make 9 is my Stonecrop. So I thought we would talk about my Stonecrop. I wanted to wear it today because we took modeled photos of it yesterday, which was really fun. And I thought, you know, I always talk about my finished items on my dress form. So I always put them on my dress form instead of wearing them myself. And part of the reason why I do that is because then I can show you all the detailing and I can show you all of the, you know, bits and pieces of the sweater itself and of the garment. But then I kind of was like, I should probably just put it on. So the neck has ended up being a little bit swooped, a little bit of a boat neck. I think if I were to make this again, I would knit it. I think I would actually do it separately. So the pattern, you actually cast on with a tubular cast on. And you work the ribbing down, and then you start the short rows at the back neck. So all of the back is short rows to begin with. And I think if I was to knit this again, knowing what I know now, and being a fairly advanced knitter, I would actually just cast on for the sweater body itself and then come back and pick up the stitches for the neckline and finish off the neck and do a tubular bind off instead of doing a tubular cast on, because I love the look of the tubular cast on. I think it really does a lot for the sweater. And I think that it really sort of is those finishing touches that just really finish off the sweater. That's the tubular bind off there. Like, how professional does that look, right? And it's even and it's really stretchy. It's nice. It's just really those lovely finishing touches that make or break an item, right? But I think the neck has kind of ended up being a little bit more relaxed than I wanted it to be. Part of it is the yarn. Part of it is the gauge, because my gauge was a little bit more relaxed than is called for in the pattern. So I sort of knit with, I knit on the needles called for in the pattern, which is 3.75 millimeter needles. We'll put up some photos of the finished sweater in just a moment, but I had to separate for my sleeves earlier than is called for in the pattern for my size, and so I tried it on my dress form quite a few times. I was knitting it on my circular needles. I did this on my Chow Goose, and I just kept adding the cable extender and putting it on my dress form and just sort of, you know, and I tried it on my physical body quite a few times. I showed it on the podcast last week and put it on. And it just sort of meant that by the time I got down to here, I sort of knew approximately when I wanted to separate, because if I had gone to the end of where I should have separated for the yoke, I would have ended up with sort of a, like a poncho kind of style, because my row gauge was so much bigger than called for in the pattern. In the pattern, it calls for a row gauge of, so 36 rows to 4 inches, and mine was about 20 rows per 4 inches, like way different, not even like remotely the same. So for those who are less experienced knitters, the thing to think about is when you're learning sort of some of this garment construction stuff, when you're doing a top-down sweater, it doesn't matter where you divide for the yoke and divide for the sleeves and divide for the body, as long as you can sort of keep track of where you're at in the pattern and where you're at when you start the body and where you're at when you start the sleeves, because it's top down. It doesn't matter whether or not you're actually following the pattern absolutely specifically, because if your row gauge is that different, like mine was really different, I had to separate sooner, because I would have ended up separating for the yoke down here, and I would have ended up with this really big boat neck like really big boat neck, sort of like it would have even stretched more, and then all this fabric. And I only wanted sort of 2 to 3 inches of positive ease, not, you know, 15 or 20. Does that make sense? So let me just catch up with chat. Fits perfectly. Yes, it does. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Megan. Yeah, so Eve, about the Lopi yarns, hopefully I answered your question by what I said in terms of like just their unique construction. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the compliments, you guys. What is the benefit of the Lopi style plying? So Dorothy and Eve, the thing with the Lopi yarns is that if they were plied any more tightly, they would be really even coarser and even more uncomfortable than some people can't wear the Lopi yarns next to their skin. I know my friend Chrissy of Snappy Stitches, she's like no problem, she loves those yarns, and they look amazing on her. Like she can wear them and rock them and it doesn't bother her, but if they had any more twist in them, they would just be really ropey. And they would be over twisted and unpleasant. So the Icelandic fiber and the Icelandic wool and just the way the type of fiber that it is lends itself to really low twist. It doesn't need a lot of ply twist to hold it together. Yeah, they're really beautiful yarns. There's been entire like master spinner essays written on the Lopi style yarns and why they work, and you can Google it. It's very cool. I think the finishing of Andrea's sweater patterns is so nice. The Weekender uses the same cast on and bind off. I agree, Dana. I think there are some designers out there that really nail the starting and finishing, the bind offs, the cast ons. And if you follow what they say and you don't just default to a long tail cast on, which I totally used to do, so I'm one of those people, I think you can really, A, you can learn a lot, and B, I think you can end up with sort of these garments that just have that little bit more, you know, they're just that little bit more finished, that little bit more sort of professional looking, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I knit this up really quickly because I was on a bit of a deadline. So I don't usually knit stuff this quickly, Ingrid. The bobbles are really, really slow. I think this first row of bobbles, when I was first kind of figuring out how to do them and how to learn them, and they're brilliant, by the way, it probably took me an hour and a half, 2 hours to get all the way around. And I had talked previously on the podcast about what happened with this, and I got down to here and I was starting the next set of bobbles and I realized that this was all wrong and I had to rip back and restart. So I had some of those types of things happen to me. I think one of the things about a sweater like this is, and I was trying to explain it in Spin Group on Thursday, there's this feeling with garments like this, and Ingrid, I would love to hear what you say about yours, because I know you're knitting one as well. I felt like I was knitting every stitch. Like, it is a very intense knit, and I felt like the whole time, like I really had to earn that next row, because even the break rows, like in here where you have no color work and no bobbles, you still have a certain number of rows before you go to, like, before you've got another pattern in here, and then you've got a couple of break rows, and then you're right into color work again. So I felt like I never got like there was no break. Like, you know, when you're knitting lace and you do all of your patterning across and then you get to purl back and it's like your break, and so every other row is like that. This, you don't really get that. So I felt like I was really like knitting every stitch. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I think that is something about a sweater like this, is you're really earning every stitch. So, and because I was on a deadline, because this is part of some reflections that I have for some an article that I'm writing, and writing about you know, this yarn, the Fractured Dawn, that is the color work in this sweater. This is my 3-ply high twist Targi bamboo silk. It's in the Fractured Dawn colorway from Katrina of Crafty Jack's Boutique, and this is my favorite colorway of hers, and that's the color work in this sweater. And I have 150 yards left, and actually I was trying to figure out how much I started with in terms of the yardage, and I started with 480 yards, and I have about 150 left. So I used about 330 yards of yarn, which I think is pretty bang on with what she calls for in the pattern. Oh no, it's not, it's higher. I'll have to recalculate how much yarn I have left. But this is what it looks like. So I'll back away from the mic for just a minute. So it's a cropped cardigan. I knit it to the called for length. I'm excited to wear it with a dress underneath. I knit the full length sleeves, so 19-inch sleeves. And it's got a nice amount of ease in it. It's very, very bouncy and springy because of the high twist yarn. The targi is so bouncy and springy anyways. So the Tough and Tender is a targi nylon yarn. This is the Deep Jungle colorway. And it worked really well because there's the Deep Jungle in the targi. You can see it in there. That same color is in there. And so Katrina and I talked about putting purple with this. So the solid color, the main color was going to be purple. And then we talked about blue. So that would have worked really beautifully. But for some reason, we just kept coming back to the green again and again and again and again. This is her color, her ocean colorway. It's one of her new colorways. And yeah, so I think it came out really well. Oh, bye Megan, have a great trip. We'll see you when you get back. Is the tubular cast on something you can insert into every project? Absolutely, Mary. And you know, what I was saying about the collar and picking up the stitches afterwards and doing the collar later, it would have meant that I could knit it on slightly smaller needles. So I think I cast on 3.25 millimeter needles, because in the pattern, you do the ribbing on, depending on what your gauge is and how you get gauge, you knit the body of the cardigan on 3.75 millimeter needles. I'm just looking at the pattern page. And then all of the ribbing is done in 3.25 millimeter needles, so US size 3. And the rest of the cardigan itself, the color work, everything else is knit on US 5 millimeter needles. I did the ribbing up the sleeves and the ribbing at the bottom on 2.75 millimeter needles instead of 3.25. I know that's very confusing. So I ended up working the ribbing on US size 2 needles instead of US size 3. And I think I got a better result on the bottom ribbing and on the cuffs. And so if I were to knit this again, which I'm planning on doing the cardigan version, because we're going to do that in the spin group. We're going to do a sort of a spackle, which is a spin along, knit along together. We're all going to do the Stonecrop. I would do this ribbing on 2.75 millimeter needles, so US size 2s, and I would pick it up afterwards and do a tubular cast off, and that's where you Kitchener the stitches. And the only reason is because I think it would bring in the collar a little bit more, like it would be kind of more like this. It would just bring it in a little bit more, whereas with this slightly looser gauge, it sort of makes it a bit more boat neck. So, and like my tank top underneath like keeps poking through, so if you're not wanting to constantly be fiddling with it, I think that would have been a little bit better. To be honest with you, other than separating for the yoke early because of my shape and my size, I wouldn't make any other changes. I love the baubles. And you know what? Let me show you guys the finished photos rather than me trying to move around and show you, and then you can see what it looks like on me. And you can see all the statistics down below in terms of like what I used for the ribbing, what I used for the crochet hook. The crochet hook called for in the pattern is a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, and the baubles up here are made with a 3.5, but I found they were a little bit too tight and a little bit too, like, Eve is gonna laugh, but they were a little bit too small. Like they're just not as, I think it's because my gauge was a little tiny bit more relaxed, a little bit bigger. So for the rest of the baubles, I did them all on 4 millimeter with a 4 millimeter crochet hook, a size G. And I really like the results that I got. And I think it's just because this yarn is a tiny, tiny, tiny bit thicker than the yarn called for this in the pattern that Andrea made. Because I've seen hers in real life at Knit City, and hers is it's just gorgeous, and the baubles are just perfect. So I think it's just that slight difference in the yarn. I'm just going to catch up with questions that you guys have, because I saw there was a question about would you wait to make just the rib at the end or the neck shape? No, so the neck shaping is actually part of the sweater itself. So I would cast on the number of stitches that I would need for the sweater, and then I would work the back yoke short rows, and then work the sweater, and then just the ribbing. So sort of more like a traditional sweater pattern, rather than doing the ribbing and then going into the body of the sweater. That would be the only change I would make. Is the tubular cast on something you can insert? Yes, okay, yep, I answered that. I love the wider neck on you. Oh, thank you, Pia. So you've had the experience of separating early as well. Yeah, you have to try stuff on. Like if you're doing something from the top down, take advantage of that and try it on. Oh, thank you, Becca, for chiming in with your knowledge about the Lopi yarns. So she says twisting the unspun cakes together makes them slightly stronger. Is a bit more round than two bits of basically roving held next to each other. When and if you knit the cardigan Stonecrop, will you knit the baubles again? Great question, Dana. So Eve and I have had this sort of joke running back and forth between us about the baubles and about the sort of these baubles. I won't sort of go into our 12-year-old humor. I think that I would. I think that part of the charm of the pattern and part of the symmetry of the pattern and why it works, and your eye moving across the sweater, I think part of what works about it is the baubles. And I'm not a big bauble person, and I don't love baubles, but I think it works. And I think that the nice thing is with mine, the baubles did line up a little bit higher than my true full bust line, and you can infer what you want from that. And so because they're up here at the top of the yoke and then they are again down underneath, they line up just sort of in the right spot, that I think I would do the baubles again, because I think they really make it. Yeah, thank you, Dana. Thank you for saying it looks nice on me. Yeah, the colors are great. I don't wear a lot of green. I really have gotten away from wearing a lot of green, and I think it was just because blue kind of took over in my wardrobe, and blue's kind of been the color for the last number of years, and I sort of forgot that green is like a really good color for me. So sometimes you just kind of have to embrace what works. I do like the neckline. It's just that I would cinch it up a little bit. Like I would just make it a little bit tighter, but I do like it. I didn't want it to come off as that I don't like it, because I do. Yeah, thanks, Heidi. Yeah. I guess it is quite elegant, isn't it, when you have that swooping neckline? It was really funny because we had this conversation in the cul-de-sac the other day, and I was working on my I'd finished this, and it was blocking in the sun, and I had started my gentle morning, which we'll talk about next. And one of the girls in the cul-de-sac, who's a really, really dear friend, she's like, we never see what you make. Like you're always making all this stuff, but you never wear any of your stuff. And I was like, yeah, I do. Like I wear my stuff all the time. And they're like, well, we never see it. And I was like, I guess not, because I save it to wear it when I'm going out. Like I wear it if I'm going out for dinner with Katrina and Felicia, or if I'm getting together with my friend Heidi, or I'll, wear stuff when I'm, going to wherever. And, I was reflecting on what they said, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Like you guys don't see it. And then yesterday, Friday morning, before James had his virtual meeting group with school, I was like, I was going to pull out one of my pullovers, and I was going to wear it because it was just a little bit too chilly not to wear something. And I ended up wearing my simple something, and I was like, I just feel so fancy. I feel so dressed up. Like this is too much. And I'm walking down the street, and I was wearing these jeans that I'm wearing right now, and the jeans that are in the photograph. And I was like, this is just too fancy. And then I was like, you know what? Screw it. I need to wear this stuff, because if I don't wear it, it's just going to sit. And I need to kind of get over that idea that it's too fancy and that it's too special and that I need to save it. I need to just wear it. So I've actually been wearing a lot. I've really been making myself go into my closet and get my cardigans that I've knit over the years that I really love and that I just haven't worn, and forcing myself to wear them. And actually it's funny because I started wearing them and then on 2 of them the buttons fell off. So I was like, okay, this is perfect because I can sew the buttons back on. Obviously they needed to be better secured anyways. So yeah. Oh, hi Charlotte, good to see you. Yes, you get to see my new sweater. Provisional cast on or pick up. No, I would just pick up the stitches around the neckline. I wouldn't bother with a provisional cast on. That's my kind of knee-jerk reaction, I think, Jean. I would just do a long tail cast on and then pick up the stitches. That's what I would do. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Sarah. The modeling. Yeah, thank you. It's always something that I find really hard. I find it really hard. So I've been trying to be more relaxed in front of the camera. And when Mike is taking the photos, he's actually quite funny and he gets me laughing, and the kids were laughing at me and I was kind of laughing at myself. So it actually was quite good. Thanks, Eve. Every woman deserves to feel fancy. Thank you. Oh, hand knits over pajamas. Yeah, very fancy loungewear. That's awesome, Amanda. I love that. So I spun this yarn on my e-spinner, and I wanted to just share with you really quickly. I really found with this yarn when I was spinning it, and these 2 yarns they're both bamboo Targi bamboo silk blends, and they're both 3-ply, and they were both spun really high twist singles and high twist ply. So the ply twist angle is about 45 degrees, and the singles, when you did a ply back, it was quite a firm ply back. And I really enjoyed spinning the yarn, and I really I'd been kind of saving those 2 braids in my stash for quite a long time. And so I decided the other week, this was on Mother's Day. No, this was the Sunday before Mother's Day here in Canada. So last Sunday was Mother's Day, and then the weekend before, we went over to my mom's house because we've started treating our 2 households as one household because she has no contact with anybody else. And her and I've just been staying apart. So this is their backyard, my mom's backyard. And I decided to sort of just slow down because I had the e-spinner set really, really high for both of these spins. And there's a certain kind of anxiety that comes with spinning that quickly and doing that type of spinning where you're just high twist, moving quickly. You've got the spinner set really quickly. And so with this spin that I've been working on now, it's this combo spin that I've been working on, and it's all of these Falkland braids that are out of my stash. And so I've got the 3 Waters Farm and then 2 that are unlabeled that I have no idea who the dyers were. And I know I'm on the smaller camera down here in the corner, so it's a little bit harder to see. But these 3 sort of minis, as Jillian Moreno calls them, I've just been spinning up. And this is my ply back test on the e-spinner. And I just slowed the e-spinner right down. And I've just been spinning really, really easy, really slow. Very gentle DK weight yarn. I think this is sort of a 12 to 14 wraps per inch. Let me just look on my card here. Yeah, it'll be about 12 wraps per inch. I'll probably have just an enormous amount of yardage because it's 3 4-ounce braids, so 12 ounces of fiber, and that I'll have spun. And I've been spinning it all to 1 bobbin, and just very, very gentle, very slow, random, just grabbing random nests out of my basket here, or my bag, whatever you want to call it, and toting my e-spinner around with the battery pack. And I think there's something to be said, especially during times like this, as we are sort of reflecting upon all of this stuff that's been happening in the world and trying to alleviate the pressure on the healthcare system and the sheltering in place to be able to do that. I've just really enjoyed the meditative, slow, You know, I've been keeping the e-spinner speed around 12 noon, so the speed dial is like straight up, and it's just been really nice. You know, just like, you know, short backwards, smoothing the fiber, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in on the 5, and it's been really, really nice. I've been really enjoying it, so I wanted to share that with you guys. Let me just see if there's any questions. Color combo is perfect. Thank you, Janelle. Oh, the welly. Yeah, so you know what? Okay, I have to tell you. So those are hunters, and they're kind of like the Vancouver wardrobe, if you will. And anybody who's local to me will appreciate that. So everybody has a pair of rain boots, and everybody has their rain jacket, and like it's sort of like a bit of a uniform here. Anyways, I bought mine back in 2007. I've had those hunters for over 13 years, and I bought them at a store on in Kitsilano in Vancouver. It's sort of like a street in Vancouver that there's lots of shops and lots of you know, indie, lots of restaurants, lots of cafes. Greta, who is part of our community, who I've known forever, their tea shop is down there, and you'd go on 4th Ave all the way through Kitsilano to Point Grey and out to UBC. And it's just this great street. Anyways, there's a store on that street that all they sell is rain boots. Honestly, that's all they sell. And so I bought them there 13 years ago, and those, I have worn them and worn them and worn them. They've been to Tofino countless times, on the beach. Yeah, it's just one of those crazy things. Oh, Kelly, you're so funny. You're one of the only people in Vancouver or Victoria that didn't have a rain jacket ever. You're so funny. The thing is, though, if you have an umbrella, you don't really need one. Yeah. I always think about spinning with spinning wheel in front of me. Interesting to have it off to the side. Yeah. So, Jean, I actually spin with my e-spinner off to the side because I find that ergonomically, it's more natural for me to draft across my body. It's one of the reasons why I bought my Magicraft Susie, because I can hang the head off of the side that I want, and I can adjust the actual physical maiden to where I want it, and it's just a very natural way for me to spin across my body. And I've always kind of wondered about maybe eventually getting a traditional style wheel. I'm still waiting for my Lundrum Saxony. Maybe one day he'll do them, where I'm spinning across my body. It's just a very natural way for me to spin. I pretty much never have the e-spinner in front of me, ever. And I find if I do, I end up feeling like I end up turning my body like this. So I always end up sort of perpendicular to the spinner. Yeah. Are you spinning to one bobbin? How do you plan to ply? Wind off onto weaving bobbins? Oh, great question, Dana. So I'm actually not sure, because the bobbin for the first 150 grams is getting quite, like, it's going to be full. So I'm thinking that I might use a second bobbin, and I may or may not rewind these bobbins, these singles, and ply from the first spun end. And the only reason why I maybe won't is because I don't really care if the fiber is really super smoothed. This is sort of just a fun, mindless spin. It's not for like super dense sock yarn. It's not for like a high sheen yarn. It's just a fun spin. It's Falkland. It doesn't have a really big sheen anyways. I mixed up all of the minis and pre-drafted them and stuff, so I'm not really sure, you know, which end is which, because it's commercial comb top. So I might not bother rewinding. I might just spin 2 bobbins and ply. I'm not sure. I'll let you guys know for sure. Oh, Dorothy, yeah, you spin across your body too, hey? Yeah. My wheel is a Saxony, so I spin to the side. Nice long distance to draft without moving too much. Absolutely. I think it's more ergonomically natural, you know? Yeah. Wind is blowing too hard to rip it out of your hands, or it blows rain under. Yeah, isn't that true, Becca? You know, sometimes the umbrellas are useless. Umbrellas are useless in Oklahoma. Rain falls sideways thanks to the wind. Yep. You guys are so funny. So let's talk about my gentle morning. That's my combo spin, and we already talked about my shore cardigan. I did get something in the mail. Let me just change my cameras around. I had ordered from Niddy Noddy, which is in the UK, a Tibetan support spindle, and it came, and it's beautiful, and I love it. So I've been playing with it a little bit, and it's got a metal tip. That's actually why I really wanted it. It's just beautifully made, and I'm just really pleased with it. So this is a little bit of the Shetland that I've been spinning. And yeah, I'm just really, really pleased with that. It finally came. I ordered it a long time ago, but with everything that's been going on in the world, it did take quite a while to come. But that's okay. It was worth the wait. So this is a Tibetan. And actually the wood, I have it written down. But I left it over there. I can't remember what the wood is. But it's beautiful. It's got a really nice weight to it too, actually. And it's fast. It really spins quickly. So yeah, it's been, and thank you for all of the messages, you guys, around the spinning bowls, the support bowls. I've really appreciated that very, very much. You guys have been really helpful around some of that. So I'm going to start playing with that and figuring out sort of what I'm going to, and learning. Kind of just getting used to the ergonomics of it, and I know somebody had said it took them like 5 ounces of fiber to really get comfortable and to start to spin the yarns that they wanted, so, and to get any kind of speed. So I'm just going to be really patient with it. I might start a project. Yikes. See what I mean? Learning curve. So anyways, really fun to play with. I'm kind of bummed that we're not doing our trip to Alberta, because that was the whole point, because we were going to go to Drumheller this summer, and that was the whole point, was I was going to work on my support spindling on our trip. I was going to work on it in the truck while we were driving, so I'm kind of bummed about that, but that's okay. So I did finish off some more of my Shetland, so let me move my cameras around to give you a better view. Oh, lovely. Linnea's been spinning on her Tibetan while we've been talking. That's awesome. Oh, I'm so glad. So this is the Shetland that I've been working on. This is the fiber that we did a giveaway for a couple months ago. And it's the Shetland roving. It looks like this. We're actually going to drop some off with Kelly today, who's in the chat. It's this stuff. It's pin drafted roving. It's sort of a woolen style, woolen prep. I've spun quite a few bobbins of it, so that's a bobbin in there that's waiting to be plied. And I've been kind of going back and forth between it and my Frisian on my Lundrum, because I've been spinning both of those projects on my Lundrum. For the first time in a very long time, I don't have a project on my Magicraft. Isn't that weird? I was thinking last night, I need to get something onto my Magicraft. And I think I've just been really consumed with the Frisian and this project that I sort of just haven't had motivation isn't really the right word. I think it's more of like a time thing. Like I just haven't had the opportunity to prep a spin and to get it onto the Magicraft. I just kind of have left it sitting there. And I've been working on the Falkland, the combo spin. So it's just been, yeah. You know what, Kelly? It will be there next year. We were wanting to go this year because next year we were actually planning to go up to Great Stave in NWT in the Northwest Territories. So we were going to do a smaller trip this year, and then next year we were going to do another 6-week trip. That's why I'm bummed. So it is very much first world problems. But I just, it's just, yeah. I'm actually totally okay with it. It wasn't the trip that was the issue. It was the not getting to practice my support spindling that was the issue, which Mike was just like, oh my goodness gracious. He was like laughing at me. So this is Disdero Ranch up in Tappan, British Columbia. This was a 2-ply sample that I pulled off. And this is the 3-ply that I talked about last week. So they're both actually quite different. This ended up being really lovely. It's quite a nice round yarn. Woolen, even though I did short backward, I didn't smooth. And I didn't want to spin it long draw because the pin drafted roving really lends itself to just being pre-attenuated, so pre-drafted, and then just sort of a short backward without any smoothing. But I am really happy with how this turned out. And I washed it and did all the things with it this past week, and we did have some nice days, and so I was able to get it dry really quite quickly. And I was just going to grab out my spinner's control card to see sort of what the wraps per inch ended up being. Because the 2-ply came off, I really love the 2-ply yarn. But it came off, like, it's very, very, very fine. It's sort of more of a lace weight. And huge yardage. Oh, sorry, that was right near the mic, sorry. So the 2-ply ended up being about 20 wraps per inch. Yeah. 20 wraps per inch. So it's a light fingering, sort of almost, yeah, light fingering. It would probably knit up really nicely on 3mm needles. Maybe, yeah, probably 3mm needles. I don't know what size that is in US sizing. And then the 3-ply ended up being 14 wraps per inch, which, to be honest with you, yeah, between 12 and 14. See if I can show this to you under the webcam. I'll just move over. So this is one of my spinner's control cards. This is one of my spinner's control cards, and if I hold this just I'm not holding any tension, I'm just kind of laying it over top, and I'll do a proper wraps per inch when it added, like, later. But if I hold it over top, it really works. It really covers everything up. It's probably 13 wraps per inch, to be honest. It's not quite, it's a little bit smaller than 12 and a little bit bigger than 14. So the thing that I was thinking about with this yarn is that because of sort of it's just got that gorgeous natural brown, heathered, like, it's just very, very pleasant. And so this is my on the round BFL that I've been kind of wondering about pairing. But I also sort of thought that, and I don't really have anything right here that's a great example, but I have so much in my stash that would actually work with this to be held as the color work for my Stonecrop Cardi. So I am kind of leaning towards this yarn and cabling this to tighten it up, because this yarn is like 22 wraps per inch finished. It is way too fine. And I need to make it more like, yeah, it's 22 to 24. Yeah, it's way too fine. So if I tightened it up and cabled it, because there's over 500 yards of yarn here, if I cabled it, it would tighten it up a little bit, give it a little bit more structure, and it would make it more of a 14 wraps per inch-ish. It doesn't have to be super accurate. The color work in this is very forgiving. And I think actually in the pattern, she even uses 2 different yarns. One's a fingering weight and one is a sport weight. Because the spin cycle is sport weight, a light sport weight, but it's still sport weight. And then she puts it with a fingering weight yarn for the body. So, and then the other thing I was thinking was this could be used together as the color work in a yoke, and then this could be the body, like the solid. So I had thought about that as well. So it's just working away. Yeah, so I can definitely do that. Linnea, she wants me to show how I wrap around and do a wraps per inch and how I kind of wrap it around. I find I actually have a tool that you can do wraps per inch with. And so I use my different Spinner's Control cards quite a bit. I have this one and I have my Sukaplocky ones, and I use those quite a bit because they work really well for just like a quick and dirty wraps per inch. Like I can just sort of do it really quickly and get an idea of kind of where I'm at. But I actually have a tool, which I don't have here with me, where I hold the yarn, and I can do it with a pencil crayon. Just let me grab some yarn. This is my gentle morning. So let me reach under the camera here and I'll show you what I mean, where I actually hold the yarn. So I have a tool that actually has grooves cut into it for 1 inch. And it's downstairs, unfortunately, so I can't show you. I use it when I'm really not liking the gauge that I get when I knit up yarns. So if I knit up like my Frisian here, I knit up the swatch and I just can't get the right gauge. So like this was 5 millimeter, 4 millimeter, 4.5 millimeter, and 5 millimeter needles. And if I had knit all of this and it had been too tight, or it had been too loose, and I just was like not sure where to go from there, then I would pull out my wraps per inch tool. But I know that this yarn is sort of roughly 14 wraps per inch, and I know that, you know, based on sort of what I'm looking for, that it'll knit up really nicely on 4 millimeter needles. So what I do with my wraps per inch tool is I hold the one end, and then it's hard to do it on something that's small gauge like this. Like this is too small, but basically I just roll it. This is too small. My wraps per inch tool is quite a bit thicker. It's more like this. And then I just roll. And because it's in a groove, the yarn like lays next to each other in the groove. So then you kind of know, and you just want to lay them next to each other. And wraps per inch is not particularly accurate if you're comparing one spinner to another. If I do my wraps per inch and then I hand you the tool and the same yarn, you're probably going to get a different result. And I talk about that quite a lot in all of the content throughout all of the stuff that we do about wraps per inch. But the reason why I like wraps per inch and why I continue to use it is because I'm only comparing my yarns to my yarns, and I just use it as a guide. So if I know that the wraps per inch of the yarn is roughly somewhere between 12 and 14, it's probably about 13 wraps per inch, then I know that if I cast on with needles that are sort of around 4.5 millimeters, 4 millimeters, maybe even 5 millimeters for a more open fabric, then I'm probably going to get a really nice fabric, because it's probably a yarn that's a DK, light DK, depending on how it was spun. So this is my gentle morning. Oh, that's so funny, Becca. So her 3-ply Shetland is almost exactly like her 3-ply Shetland. That's awesome. I think in some ways you and I actually spin quite similarly now, probably. It's a rectangular one with a 1-inch square hole. Yeah, so that works too, Linnea. You just want to just lay your yarns down. You don't want to hold them under a lot of tension, and just lay them down as you work. And again, it's practice. Do it 3 or 4 times and then take the average of all of what you find. And some people are really anti wraps per inch, and that's totally fine. I just find it's a great place to start, and I have several wraps per inch tools, and you know, just figure out what works for you. I really like these cards. This one is I think it's from Paradise Fibers. No, what's this one from? I think it is Paradise Fibers, or maybe the Woolery I got this one from. The Sukaplocky ones are the best ones in my opinion. They have a groove in them, where you actually, your singles actually like lay, or sorry, your yarn actually lays into it, or your singles, whatever you're spinning. Yeah, I think you just sort of have to figure out what works for you. And again, you want to be comparing yourself to yourself. Yeah. Oh, bye, Lane. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. So this is Katrina. I talked about this last show. Katrina had dyed all of this for me. It's in the Silver Mist colorway. It's my 3-ply Cheviot spin. And the original color of the fiber is actually here. And so that was the 2-ply sample and the 3-ply sample, and that was my knitted swatch underneath there. And I started knitting this week because when I finished this, I was like, awesome, I get to start Gentle Morning, finally. So I started knitting, and this is the collar. And I have worked all of the short rows at the back neck, and I'm just working my way down the body, or down the yoke now. So I'm about halfway through the yoke. I have, I think I have another 6 or 7 yoke increases to do, and then I'll try it on to decide. I actually haven't decided which size I'm making yet. So based on the sizing that's given in the pattern, and my gauge is absolutely bang on to her gauge in the pattern. The pattern uses Blacker Yarns Tamar, which is just a gorgeous long wool blend, and I am using the Cheviot, and my gauge is absolutely bang on to the pattern. So I'm going to, but the way that she writes the pattern, she actually writes in positive ease. So if you choose, like say you choose size 36, for example. Let me see if I can find it so I can be accurate. Let's say that you choose size 36. Then the finished bust circumference of the sweater will be 38. And if you choose size 46, then the finished bust circumference will be 48. So if you choose 46, then it'll be 48. And so she actually works in an additional inch, a couple of inches of positive ease. So what I thought I would do is, before I pick the size that I want to make, I'll knit to the size that's like this on the smaller side, try it on, see what I think, and then I will decide if I want to do the additional yoke increases to make the one size bigger. So basically I sort of have to decide how much positive ease do I want. Do I want 2 inches of positive ease, or do I want 4 inches of positive ease? And her photo on the like on the pattern page, oh, that's not the right photo. It was in my Make 9 grid. The photo of her, it looks like she's sort of got between 2 and 4 inches of positive ease. So I thought, well, before I make any decisions and I get really attached to one size, because who cares, it's just a size, I'll try it on and see where I'm at. So I've got another, I think I've got 6 more increases to go, and then I can go from there, because the 2 sizes that I'm torn between, you cast on the same number of stitches. So then you can work, and then you work your way down, and basically the difference is whether or not you work one more set of a few more sets of increases. So I'm really liking this. I love the buttonholes, the buttonhole detail, and how they're worked. They're done over four rows. They are fantastic. I think I will continue to use those in the future. So yeah, I'm just loving this. This was sitting outside on Friday afternoon with the cul-de-sac girls, just sitting there knitting, cast on, knit the 5.5-inch collar, and then continued on down working my short rows and just chit-chatting. It was really nice. Yeah, as you can see, this is a lot better. It's getting there. It's not 100%, but it's getting there. I can actually talk now. So it was really nice for the first time to be able to sit out there and chat with everyone. So what I've been doing is, I actually haven't been alternating the skeins and going 2 rows by 2 rows, because I don't want to affect the edge stitches, because there's a really beautiful edge on this, and so I don't want to affect the look of that edge on either side. It's got this gorgeous garter stitch edging to create the edge of the button band on either side. So what I've actually been doing is, what I decided to do was knit the first skein until it was sort of almost done. And then I started to, and then I'll alternate and kind of blend the two skeins together. So I started the second one last night, and I've actually been alternating them starting after the button band. So then I get to this point here. Sorry, I'm in the way. Start alternating them here, knitting across in the second skein, and then knitting back. And then when I get here again, I alternate and lift it up. So it'll be invisible on the other side. But that'll blend the two skeins together, although I don't think that there is any dye lot issues or any problems at all. But I don't want to finish the sweater and then realize that there's like a chunk of the sweater that was wrong, like, or not wrong, but that wasn't blended nicely, to sort of create that, because these are hand dyed yarns. Katrina did this one for me. So same as my Marie Chen, I wanted to make sure that the yarn was really nicely blended throughout the whole thing. Oh, Kelly, I'm really interested in how your Cheviot sweater works, because I'd love to make one, but I'm a little worried about the itch factor. So far I haven't. This is like super like lovely yarn. It feels very much like I would liken it to Cascade 220, except that it's more tightly spun, but it feels like that. So yeah, I will report back for sure, Kelly. Yeah. Oh, it was so good to have you here, Alberto. Oh, fun. He's going to his local spinning group, a demo on English 5-pitch combs with Romney fleece. Cool. Awesome. Thank you for being here. So I think that was everything that I wanted to chat about today. Does anybody have any questions before we say goodbye? I'll start putting this away. And I just want to thank everybody so much for being here. It's been a little bit more peaceful over here, which has been really lovely. We've had some really nice days, and even though we haven't had perfect weather, we've had some nice weather. It hasn't been like, we've had a bit of rain off and on, but we need the rain. I am going to start a project. I'm trying to decide what I want to knit, actually, to be honest with you. I have my skein of Pesuta and I have my skein of Ocean, and I've been trying to decide which shawl pattern I want to do, because there's the Casio Pinka, the new pattern that she just released, called Breathe and Hope. I'll post it in the live chat for you guys to see. There's that shawl, and it's a asymmetrical shawl that's done in 2-color. There's some color work, there's some eyelet lace, and it's just got a really nice look to it. It calls for I think it calls for 2 skeins of fingering weight. Just waiting for it to load on Ravelry. Sorry for pausing. It calls for two skeins of fingering weight yarn, 400 yards for 2, and so these are both 400 yards. This is 440 yards, the Ocean, and this, I think this spun up right around there somewhere. And so there's the new Casio Casa Pinka shawl, Breathe and Hope. And then I was also looking at a local designer to me, Judy Marpole's, one of her Lachlan shawl, which is a gorgeous 2-color shawl that she did. Let me see if I can link it as well. And then this is a garment knit. So this is the Velocur. I don't know how to say it. It's another Andrea Mowry pattern. I seem to be on an Andrea Mowry kick right now. I don't really know why, but although I do love her patterns. The Lachlan, and so I was sort of torn between these 3 patterns because I have enough yardage for all of them. And I was sort of torn about what to do because I really love, I want to work with this yarn right away. To go with this and with this project that I just did, and sort of this overall reflection of this different spinning techniques that I did. And so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with this. And Greta, who's part of our community, I mentioned her tea shop earlier in the show. She did the sweater pattern. It's this short sleeve boxy style pattern that has I think it uses mosaic knitting techniques, again, sort of like the shifty cardigan. But I have enough yarn for both of them. I would maybe need to get a petite of this one to finish it off, because it's 550 yards that I would need. So I'd need one more petite. But I definitely have enough in my Pesuta colorway. And I think that it would really show off the fractal and the movement of the striping in the fractal in those slow transitions, which we were talking about yesterday in the queries and explorations around creating those slow transitions. Because when you look at this handspun, you can see that there's that slow transition between the blue and then the brown that moves through. And so I sort of wondered if maybe something that was sort of boxy, sort of a big square, if you will, that's knit in the round, that would show those slow color transitions that you get when you're knitting fractals, would maybe be a really good use for this yarn. So does anybody have any advice? I was like, do I really need another sweater? But then on the other hand, I've been wearing them, so maybe I do need another sweater. And it's such a cute sweater too, and there's a couple of modeled photos of people wearing them that are just lovely. And they're short sleeve. They don't have, it doesn't have sleeves. It's kind of like a shift, kind of like not the shifty, but it's kind of like a shift, like what people used to wear in the summer in linen, where it would be sewn at the sleeves and sewn on the sides, but it was just sort of like a rectangle. Yeah, so I don't know. Debating what shawl to use for your Pesuta as well. Looking at Cowboys and Angels by Isabel Kramer. Oh, so what's that pattern, Becca? Kelly, you're such an enabler. You always need another sweater. I couldn't agree more. Actually, I did think that it might be a really useful pattern to have, or sweater to have, because some people on Ravelry have photographed it under long sleeves, but for these transition seasons that we find ourselves in, where you want something a little bit more than a t-shirt, but you don't want a cardigan and a t-shirt, I did actually think that it would be quite useful. Oh yes, this pattern is beautiful. This is the Cowboys and Angels that Becca was mentioning. Another 2 feet of double weave. Oh, it's good to see you, Heidi. Thank you so much for being here. She's time to prep for leading the fiber fusion. That's awesome, Heidi. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I'm really torn. I think I might skein this stuff up today and maybe play around a little bit with some of this stuff and just sort of see what I find, because sometimes I just feel really torn sometimes, because I've been focused on my Make 9 so much that it's sort of like, oh, do I really want to throw in another sweater into that Make 9? But I could switch out one of my sweaters as well and not take and still kind of work away at this Make 9 sort of project that I've got for myself. And my Make 9, I don't expect to have it all done this year. I'm thinking that it'll probably go into next year, and be something that I work on long term as I make outfits and as my style changes, and as I work with these yarns more and more. I really want to wear stuff that I feel good in and that I have made, and that just makes me feel good, you know, that I feel mindful of, you know, where I bought it from, and supporting local, or not necessarily all local, but supporting small business owners, indie business owners, and wearing stuff that I've put a lot of thought into and make me feel good. And yeah, you know, yeah. So I think we'll end it there today. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Have a wonderful week. We have a wool stream coming up do we have a wool stream this Friday? I don't think that we do. Do we? The 22nd? Yes, we do. We have a wool stream coming up this Friday morning for those who are part of that. And we'll be chatting some more about creating a capsule wardrobe. I would really love to hear from some of you guys, some of the things that you're struggling with when you're trying to figure out what to knit and what to make and what to do with your yarns and how to create these handmade wardrobes that many of us want. And we, it'd be really great to sort of address some of that stuff in the wool stream and to talk about some of that and to kind of delve a bit deeper. So if some of you are wanting to contribute to that, please do. I know, Eve, you were talking about wanting to create yarns that don't heavily stripe because you just don't wear them. So I would love to chat with you a little bit more about that. Yeah. Okay. Until next time. Okay, yeah, good thought, Linnea. One thing I would think or consider about a sweater is the square fit compared to the ones compared with one's figure. Absolutely. I was wondering about that. I think because I've had such good results from some of the cardigans that I've made that are a little bit don't have any shaping in them, I thought it would be kind of a fun experiment to see, like, to knit a sweater like that and to kind of see, like, A, how to wear it, and B, would I wear it? So I actually thought it would be kind of a fun, experiment. So yes, there wasn't one on Friday. Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Are there jumpers that you've made that you don't wear? What do you do with them? Oh, good question, Eve. I have donated an inordinate number of sweaters. And actually, I have a couple of sweaters that I'm going to give to my friend Corey. She is a handmade lover, but she doesn't knit herself and she doesn't spin. And she wears a lot of handmade clothing that she gets from other people. And so I asked her if she wanted a few of my sweaters that I don't wear. And she jumped at the opportunity. So I've actually been setting aside some sweaters for her that either don't fit anymore or I didn't wear as much as I thought that I would. And that's been really wonderful to be able to pass that along, because she's a florist and works in a handmade business herself. And so she really appreciates them. So actually recently I've been giving them to her. All right. Until next time, everyone, happy spinning, happy knitting. And thank you so much for your enthusiasm today and for your for being so active in the Slack channel, or sorry, in the live chat. I really appreciate it. And to those who are new patrons from this past week and have just signed up and joined us, welcome to the community. If you have any questions, I am here to help you. So please don't hesitate to reach out either on the Slack channel or on Patreon through the messaging system. I really appreciate you, and thank you so much. So until next time, happy spinning, happy knitting, happy dreaming. I'll talk to you next time. Bye, guys.